Shabbat shalom. There's a very common misconception about the Spanish Inquisition. Stay with me. I promise. Many people, most people maybe, and I mean Jews too, have this belief that the Spanish Inquisition was a period of violent persecution. In the late 15th century, it was the Spanish monarchy and the Catholic Church teaming up to persecute the Jews, who faced then this terrible choice: renounce Judaism, convert to Catholicism, or die. Still with me? Good. The problem with that belief is that it isn't quite accurate, and it is not accurate in a very fundamental way. Because by the time of the Inquisition, like when it happened, there weren't a lot of Jews left in Spain, actually. The Inquisition was the last step. For several hundred years prior, Jews had been subjected to continued and increasingly violent treatment in Spain, in Europe in general, really, though the Spanish particularly seemed to have it out for us. The priests would preach in church about the evils of the Jews. They would stir up riots among the locals, who would go on bloody rampages against their Jewish neighbors and attack and murder them, regardless of age, gender. And at the same time, Jews were gradually being driven out of public life, with restrictions on the kinds of work we were allowed to do, confining us to ghettos. Our property was confiscated. Jewish learning was banned. Anyone with any means, they got the heck out of Dodge. During the 300 years before the Inquisition, they fled, mostly to North Africa. Some took a chance on coming to the New World. You with me? Not everyone had the money to get out. And not everyone wanted to either. They didn't want to take a chance to give up everything in what had previously been a pretty comfy place to live. In the hundreds of years pre-Inquisition, about a third of Spanish Jews, they fled or were killed. Half of the Spanish Jewish population converted to Catholicism. And that was the problem. The king and queen of Spain, convinced by the church that the conversos, as they were called, the Jews who converted to Catholicism, and everyone who descended from them, they were convinced they didn't really mean it. It's just more Jewish trickery, you know? They might say they're Catholic, but at the end of the day, you can't trust a Jew, even if they tell you, oh, I'm Catholic now. So the Spanish monarchy, in partnership with the church, went on a campaign to rout out, not the Jews, the very few practicing Jews left, fled, or were killed. The campaign was to rout out the conversos, Catholics, descended from Jews, some of whom had been practicing Christians for generations, hundreds of years. A few were still secretly Jewish, yes. Most, they were all in. But it didn't matter. Didn't matter to the Spanish. The Inquisition was not about the persecution of Jews, contrary to how many of us, including myself, learned about it. It was about the torture and the killing of conversos, Jews who had done what they were supposed to do. They did the right thing. They renounced their Judaism, their Jewish identity. They became good Catholics. But at the end of the day, even hundreds of years later, that just wasn't good enough for the anti-Semites of that time. Because at the end of the day, they just hated Jews who could never, ever be good enough, even if they gave up their core beliefs on their Judaism entirely. So they hunted and tortured and killed them regardless. Now, mind you, I don't judge that choice that they made to do what they had to do. I think it's actually just really sad to renounce your beliefs and your religious identity just to try to survive an anti-Semitic power structure where you live. It's easy to say, oh, I would never do that. You don't know. That is a hard choice. And then after that, to do it, to give up who you are, just to ultimately be persecuted for who you were. Because those who hate you, period. I think that's really sad. And I don't think it's ancient history. Big study came out just this last week. Big study. If you follow Jew news, I do, obviously. If you follow Jew news, this was everywhere. It was major. The big study by the Jewish Federations of North America. They did a study on, obviously, American Jews. Roughly half of all Jews live in Israel, and roughly half of all Jews live right here in the United States. So anytime anyone has anything to say, that's a very broad statement. Anytime anyone has done a study on one of us, that's a pretty big deal. And in this study of American Jews, they found that the majority, actually not even the majority, the vast majority of American Jews support Israel. Gotta be honest. I was a little surprised to hear that, pleasantly surprised, but kind of surprised. It's nice, to be unified on anything. The vast majority of American Jews support Israel's right to exist as a free and democratic society, which means most of us recognize the importance of Jewish self-determination, that we have the right, that all people have, to govern themselves in our own land, just like everyone else has the right to do. But here's where it gets really interesting, that despite that belief that the majority of American Jews hold, the same study at the same time found that less than a third of American Jews identify as Zionists, which is absolutely fascinating to me. And the study didn't ask the direct questions, so we really should ask, why? Partly it could just be, and I think this is sincere, it could just be a lack of knowledge. That American Jews maybe sometimes don't know what Zionism is. That they've been told that Zionism means that you can't look constructively and critically at Israeli structures or policies. Trust me, Israelis are very critical of Israeli structures and policies. They think it means don't question, please. We're Jewish. We don't know how to not question things. We believe you should always ask questions. It's how you get better. No, Zionism is simply the belief that Jews have the right to self-determination. The belief that Jews have a right to govern ourselves. Just as there are 53 Muslim-majority countries, more than half in which the state religion is officially Islam, just as there are 120 majority Christian countries, a third of whom the official state religion is Christianity. There are majority Hindu countries, majority Buddhist countries. Zionism is the belief that Jews, we just want the one. And that one little slice, it doesn't even have to be exclusively Jewish. We're open-minded, you know? But we need it to be on that piece of land that if you trace that piece of land, thousands of years of colonization by other nations and other people, if you look at the historical, factual data, if you look at the archaeological proof in the dirt, and the fact that Jews have always been living there, that's the piece of land we'd like it to be. And that land is Israel. The land that we have sung about and prayed about, centered our holidays and our calendar around, no matter where we have found ourselves living, lo, these past thousands of years, we're nothing if not consistent and persistent. So maybe the majority of American Jews are just unaware of those facts, and I think that is true, certainly for some, especially for the younger ones among us, and you can't fault them for that. They're learning what Zionism means online and in school from people who do not like us, so that's gonna be a problem. But that's about younger folks. To say that this is a semantics issue, it's a lack of knowledge issue, I just find it hard to buy that, because the majority of us, the majority of American Jews of all ages, hold Zionist beliefs. So I'm afraid it's deeper and a little uglier than lack of knowledge. American Jews, like every population of Jews living in diaspora before us, we're not dumb, and we have ears. You don't hear, you hear it more now than previously, but you don't hear in polite society. People don't straight up say, I don't like Jews. No, you couldn't say such a thing. Again, you do hear that more now than you used to, but you still don't really hear that one so much. It's not a go-to insult. What you do hear, and you hear it everywhere, online, in real life, in articles, on podcasts, it is everywhere. You will always hear them say, I don't like Zionists. Jews may not be, but Zionists are the ones banned from speaking on campuses, from participating in academic societies, from working on film projects, from being included in sporting events. Zionist is what people use to label the people they hate, on the right and the left, which is kind of funny. Zio is used as a pejorative. It's a slur. It's a put down. So it makes a sort of sense that many American Jews would say, if that's the thing that's going to get me excluded, discriminated against, attacked, well, I'm not that thing. When Israel comes up, American Jews, the majority of American Jews feel they are forced to say, oh yeah, I'm Jewish, but I'm not a Zionist, even though we are. The majority of us are. Because whether we realize it or not, we are once again living in a period of time when whether we are tolerated or accepted or loved is based on our willingness to sacrifice our identity. Ein chadash tachat hashemesh, Ecclesiastes wrote, and he did that thousands of years ago. There is nothing, he said, that's new under the sun. It didn't start with the Spanish Inquisition, and it didn't end there either. The secret that's not so secret is that the people who hate us for being Jewish, they will hate us no matter how much we renounce our beliefs. if someone believes deep down that you're a dirty Jew, there is nothing you can do to cleanse you of that stain. You hear so much squawking, so much squawking online, in person, from out-and-out anti-Semites, from anti-Zionists, from Jews who carry that mantle, that all Jews have to do, all you have to do, just renounce Zionism, just renounce it. Where have we heard that before? Jews have been asked, and that's putting it very politely, to renounce our beliefs, our identity, our Judaism for thousands of years. Oh yeah, just give up these things, and then you can be Greek, you can be Spanish, you can be French, and then we'll tolerate you. Well, then we'll accept you, then we will love you. But if someone loves and accepts you, then they love and accept you, period. That's what love and acceptance means. That's why we preach about it so much from up here, you guys. Love and acceptance with contingencies is neither love nor acceptance. And the opposite then is true too. Whether in ancient times or medieval or right now, if someone hates you, then they hate you. And this is critical. If they hate you, they want you to hate you too. So why, for the love of God, would you do their work for them? I have a colleague, my age, similar background, similar education, who said, they don't really care. They don't really care. So what? They said, if the majority of American Jews don't identify as Zionists, the point is that they are Zionists. The term is dumb, they said. And worse, it's poisoned, so we should get rid of it. I hear that. I understand what they're trying to do. But my concern is this. It is a very short leap from, oh, I'm just not this thing, to, oh, I'm against this thing. They're not inherently the same, but eventually they can be. And that's how you get Jews working against Jews, in league with those who hate Jews. It happened in the Inquisition. It happened in the Holocaust. Some Jews, a small number, aligned themselves with Jew haters because they sympathized. You see, they understood from the inside, they understood. What a scourge. And you know what happened to those Jews in the end? At a stake or in a chamber. They still burned, just like the rest of us. They forsook who they were for acceptance by people who would never stop hating them, and then in the end, for what? We teach constantly from childhood, be true to yourself. It's the takeaway from books and movies and music and TV shows. Be who you are is intoned so often it seems obvious. And as such, it should be easy. But being who you are, holding true to your beliefs, is probably the hardest task you will ever undertake. It requires intellectual honesty. It requires courage. It requires the willingness to be different when society craves, to an unhealthy degree, conformity. It's a big ask, I get it, I know, but you should know this if you're sitting here and you're Jewish. Whether you chose this path for yourself or your family has been Jewish for as long as anyone can remember, either way, You are part of a chain of tradition, of practice and belief, of joy and love of being Jewish in the entirety of its belief for thousands of years. For thousands of years, Jews have stood up in the face of Jew haters of their day and said, no thanks, I'm going to believe and be exactly who I am. And they survived to tell the tale and survived every generation up to and including you. Their strength of conviction is in you. Their blood flows through your veins. And no matter what those who hate us want you to think, don't you ever forget it. Shabbat shalom.